Hello and welcome to the Atheist Experience. I'm your host, Russell Glasser, and with me today is Don Baker.
Hey, good to be here.
Good to see you again.
Good.
Today is Sunday, May 15th, 2016. We're a live call-in, internet-based atheist TV show broadcasting from Austin, Texas, and dedicated to promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. You can catch us live every Sunday on YouTube or ustream.tv. The official Atheist Experience website is www.atheist-experience.com. You can also provide feedback by commenting on the official show blog at freethoughtblogs.com/AXP. You can email us at tv@atheist-community.org, or you can join the official the Atheist Experience official discussion group on Facebook. If you enjoy this show, please check out our related podcast, The Nonprofits, currently airing on the first and third Wednesdays of every month. You can find links at the Atheist Experience website, and the next Nonprofits will be recorded live on the evening of May 18th. As always, the cast and crew of the Atheist Experience will be going to dinner after the show at Threadgill's North location, 6416 North Lamar. We will be arriving at around 6:15 or so, sometime after the show ends. Not a lot in the way of extra announcements today, but on a personal note, I, Russell Glasser, am going to be in Washington, D.C. From June 4th through 6th. Going to hang out for the Reason Rally, where I understand a lot of cool atheists and also Johnny Depp will be speaking. I guess Johnny Depp also is a cool atheist. And
Who knew?
I assume I'll see some of you there, so if anybody wants to get together or hang out, you can find me on Twitter or Facebook and drop me a line. How are you doing, Don?
Just fine. We got a kind of rainy weather here in Austin.
Yeah, well, it's
Beats the
nice
drought.
for a change.
Right. Yeah. Shall I start?
Sure.
I've been doing a long series of failure shows, and today is another one. Today is number 38 by my counting, and the title is God Confusion. And so many failures, so few gods. Mm-hmm. This is kind of the motto of the show. So when we have a lot of theists call in and ask us questions and talk about their God or whatever, and we hear a lot of different definitions of God, and mankind has invented tens of thousands of gods throughout history, and most are long forgotten, and there's no reason to think any of them are special. And ironically, the characteristics of Zeus, the characteristics of Thor, the characteristics of Ra, the characteristics of Ceres, all may be better defined than the Christian God. The Christian God is rather fuzzy. And part of the reason, I think, is that it was even before Judaism, it was a mishmash of Eucharistic gods, El and Yahweh and Hadad and Baal, all kind of got glommed together into a single monotheistic thing, although originally they were separate gods, a part of a pantheon known as the Elohim. And even there's lots of name confusion, especially in the Bible. There's Yahweh, there's Lord, there's Jeshua. There's all these different God names in the Bible, and then since Judaism, we've had different derivative religions, taking the God of Abraham, supposedly the God of Abraham, and taking it off in different directions, and we've likened it to fan fiction, where different stories get kind of spun different directions and such. And all three of these religions can't seem to agree on his attributes or powers, as the stories have diverged. And even within Christianity, there's a lot of divergence and change over time. And these God concepts seem to evolve culturally. And that seems to be the best evidence, or a bit of evidence that there aren't any real sort of objective gods there. Within Christianity, the Trinity concept is not fully accepted. the idea took hold at a particular point in time, and we can point back at it and talk about the forces at work that caused that belief to be picked up. And the Trinity doesn't make any sense. It's God creating himself as a son and sacrificing himself to himself to fix a mistake that he made. It's very, very, very odd and confused. And
since you mentioned the fan fiction thing again, I feel like there's a pretty good parallel to draw here, because I just saw, Captain America: Civil War.
The Avengers movies, right?
Yeah, which is really an Avengers movie. Don't be fooled by the title, pretty much. But pretty good
movie, by the way.
Yes, I enjoyed it a lot, and don't worry, we won't do any spoilers. Well, just one. People punch each other a lot.
Yeah.
Surprise. But I noticed that in this Captain America movie, Spider-Man went through the third movie reboot since the year 2000. So, I mean, he keeps getting recycled, and he's slightly different every time. And then, before that, Marvel Comics themselves are kind of notorious for just kind of scrapping everything in their Marvel universe and starting over every once in a while. So we got, you know, Spider-Man and Ultimate Spider-Man, and this Spider-Man is a teenager, but Tobey Maguire, quite obviously a gawky teenager, but Andrew Garfield started out in college, and it's like all the Spider-Mans have slightly different circumstances and different orders that they meet the bad guys.
And
they're all kind of the same thing, but because they're all fiction, right? They're not really tied to a strict retelling of the same events.
And we love our superhero stories, don't we? And our God stories.
We do, yeah.
And it's okay if it evolves and changes and and gets retold and these sorts of things. So.
So I think all these different branching religions are kind of like that, where they're like, all right, this Catholic God has gotten stale. Let's do a reboot on this story. And this time it's almost the same, but you need a personal relationship with the God and so on.
Right. With this story somehow, yeah.
No. This one has golden tablets.
Yeah, right. with Mormonism. So back to the Trinity, this is kind of three-headed natures to it, and that's all kind of confused. God is Jesus when you're supposed to feel guilt or admire his virtue. He's the Godhead when you're supposed to feel awe or fear, and he's this Holy Spirit when you're supposed to feel a warm embrace or a sense of purpose. And so he's got all the emotional bases covered, it seems, through that. Let's see. There's this idea that God is a creator. Well, what exactly did he create? The universe? I'm not sure he did. The evidence is that we don't have any evidence that there is such a thing, and physics seems to explain, or cosmology seems to explain the universe as we know it. Did he create mankind? Well, no. Evolution disproves that idea. And most Bible stories are about destruction, not creation. So it's possibly due to the storm god attributes of Yahweh from back in the day. So what does God do if he doesn't create? Well, as science progresses, the alleged actions of God become smaller and less impressive. Cosmology explains the universe, evolution explains life. We understand rainbows and lightning and all these natural phenomena because we have a better understanding of the universe, and the role of God, or the need for God to try to explain things, becomes less and less. And on the question of what does God do, well, atheists seem to be able to chase God out of schools when we have a church-state win.
Oh, sure. There's all those sad stories going around.
They've taken God out of the schools. Well, God is supposed to be omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent. Well, is he all-powerful? Right. There's this thing that Matt talked about a while back. Can he create a boulder so large that he can lift it? Well, I don't know of any God that can create a rock or can lift one. So it's vacuously true. He can't create a rock that he can't lift. So anyway, both prongs are false. Clearly, God cannot heal amputees. He cannot create any newborn future tithers that's going to keep the church in business. And he can't seem to bend the rule that sin requires a blood sacrifice for atonement, even though he is supposedly the one being honored by that blood sacrifice. Is God all-knowing? Well, omniscience is incompatible with humans having free will, which is supposedly what the religion says we have. And did God know that Adam and Eve would eat of the tree of good and evil? Or did he know that humans would become wicked and needed to be killed off by the flood? Or did he know that the humans would build a tower and in these stories? What about omnibenevolent? Well, there's this claim that God is love, but the most common interaction between humans and God in the Bible is God killing them. The second most common interaction is God ordering the killing. So no love here. This leads, this three omnis leads us to the problem of evil, and I won't belabor it, but it's still not adequately been answered after 2,000 years from Epicurus. There's the claim that God is the author of morality. Well, but is an act moral because God says so, or because he's the messenger of a deeper truth? Either morality is God's whim, which is not a very pleasant thought, or God is irrelevant to the discussion. So that kind of falls flat on its face. There's the claim that God is perfect. Well, he clearly has a murderous streak. He clearly changes his mind. He clearly can't communicate to humanity. He can't seem to make anything perfect, and he blames humanity for his imperfections. So we got problems here. God is the universe. We've heard that. Well, that's just an attempt to redefine the universe, and I guess it gives you omnipresence, but there's no evidence that the universe is alive or cognizant or any of that. So this kind of fails. God is outside space and time. Well, this is just blatant special pleading. And how do you know any of this? And you don't have anything. It's a nonsensical concept trying to wrap a mystery in a mystery. And then there's this claim that God is incomprehensible. Well, then please admit to me that theology is a scam. And nonsense is also incomprehensible. So how do we distinguish your God from nonsense? I can't. There is scientific evidence that God is a mental construct. There is a paper called "Believers' Estimates of God's Belief Are More Egocentric Than Estimates of Other People's Beliefs," and it's a study of various people reasoning about how God would behave, and reasoning about how their friends would behave, and reasoning about how they would behave. And not surprisingly, everybody's concept of God's behavior would be analogous to their own. And here's a little quote from the paper. "People may use religious agents as a moral compass, forming impressions and making decisions based on what they presume God as the ultimate moral authority would believe or want. The central feature of a compass, however, is that it points north no matter what direction the person is facing. This research suggests that, unlike an actual compass, inferences about God's belief may instead point people further in whatever direction they were already facing." So that's an interesting scientific study, and I'll post a link of that on our blog. There was another study done more recently in the last maybe 8 years or so by Baylor, and they divided the attributes of God into 4 quadrants, being judgmental or non-judgmental as one axis, and critical versus non-critical on another axis. And this study found that people's impressions of God fell almost equally into those 4 quadrants. So there isn't even an agreement among the people who supposedly have a personal relationship with God, what this God actually is. So clearly, God makes no sense. The more I talk to theists, the less they seem to know about what they're talking about. And when you call the show, don't be surprised if we ask you to define what you mean. And this is why we ask, what do you believe and why? Because we don't understand this concept. And the foundation of Christianity seems to be based on the shifting sands of a very squishy concept here. This God concept just doesn't make sense. And God appears to be a marketing mechanism or a mascot that lacks any objective basis. It's changing throughout history. And that's another failure of Christianity and a lot of religions.
Yeah. If I can just add
Sure.
one other thing
Please
to
do.
that. I mean, I feel like, the gods you named that have more specificity than Christianity, like Zeus and so forth, all are really from a long time ago. And Christianity used to be a lot better defined back when there was, Catholicism, like in the Middle Ages, selling indulgences and giving very specific edicts about, you have this very specific imagery and this very specific character of Christ. But once the Enlightenment happened and science became sort of the popular paradigm for people.
And Protestantism broke off and these sorts of things.
Yeah,
right?
there was that. But also there was the fact that once you get in the mindset that you can test stuff, a lot of the very specific claims of Christianity start dropping off or becoming hard to sustain because people have higher standards of evidence at that point. And so I feel like it's not that the Christian God generally is poorly defined, but that like all religions that have made the transition into the 21st century have gradually become more and more squishy and more difficult to pin down because they've backed off from those specific claims.
Oh, good point. I like that explanation. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Let's go to calls. What do you think?
Yeah. It looks like we have Matt on the line from Virginia Beach.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. And you?
Very well, thanks. What's on your mind?
Well, I was on YouTube, I guess as a bunch of people are, and I was in the comment section of certain videos, and we were having a conversation between me and an atheist. His name was Brian, and he's a very nice guy, and we were diving into what seemed to be some pretty deep things.
Mm-hmm.
And he started saying that we can account for most things that we observe in the world via natural causes.
Okay.
And then I asked him, I said, okay, well, when you're going into it, it seems that there's two probabilities. Whenever you're looking at, okay, can this be explained naturally? What do you mean by natural? Are you talking about mere natural causes, like the product of chance or natural laws having arisen by chance? Or are you talking about God-authored natural laws? Because it is a claim of Christianity, which I'm a Christian, that God operates the universe on natural laws.
It
gravity,
seems like you've
stuff like that.
You've done a.
And
it seems like you've changed the subject there. You were talking about the universe arising from from natural laws and the interaction of, say, gravity and electromagnetism and these sorts of things to, and then you sort of changed the subject to where do these laws come from?
Yeah, I mean, it got to the point that I was trying to explain, well, even if you can explain something via natural law, that's part of my explanation too. Christianity also claims that the universe operates on natural law. So I don't know how you're showing that we can explain this without the presence of God.
Well, let me ask you.
If God offered these natural laws, it would work the same way.
Right. I'm just curious, in this frame of reference, like, do you feel that God is something that requires an explanation himself?
Well, I think that he would be the prime mover. I mean, I think.
Okay, but I mean, is that an explanation?
Well, sure. I mean, if
where did the God come from exactly? Because you're telling me that you feel like the presence of natural laws need to be accounted for. So in the same way, I could ask, what accounts for the fact that God is there in the first place?
Well, I would say that when you look at something, and it seems like that it came into being at some point in the past, then you would have to answer, where did that come from?
Okay.
Such as
are
the
you
universe.
are
I mean,
you asserting that the laws
models,
of physics came into being?
Yes, I would say that when everything came into being at the beginning of the universe, the laws that govern the
Wait. Everything? Does that include God?
Everything material existence. Like space, time, matter, energy, the things that came into being at the Big Bang, if you want to put it like that. But no, I would not include an all-knowing immaterial mind.
How do you, but yeah, but you're kind of jumping the gun here because you are making the assumption that an immaterial mind exists, and this is kind of begging the question, right? This is asserting what you're trying to prove in the first place. You're saying everything.
You don't assert it from the beginning.
Right.
You look at the effect, and then infer it when you see
Infer it
traits
how?
that warrant that being inferred. Like saying, when you go back to the beginning and you say, okay, it seems that time, space, matter, and energy came into being at some point in the finite past. Mm-hmm. Well, now because being doesn't arise from non-being uncaused. That's not in any of our experience.
Except for God.
Well, I mean, no, not except for God. What I'm trying to say is, when you see something come into being from non-being, something had to be there to cause that.
Okay, and so
that's not in our experience.
And so what are you claiming are the properties of this something that caused it?
Well, being that matter is one thing that came into being, that would mean that whatever was before it was immaterial or no matter. If our time or our understanding of time that affects the universe is something that came into being, then whatever was before that or caused that had to transcend it because it created it. If space, say, was one of the effects, then whatever caused that transcends space.
How do you know
it? If we look at the created thing or the effect, and we see that intelligence is built into it, I would say. Wait.
What intelligence? Where did that intelligence was a big leap that you haven't justified?
Well, I mean, you could look at the fine-tuning of the universe. That would be
I don't buy that the universe is fine-tuned.
Or you could look at the information that is present within our DNA. Or
information is just a term we use to describe our ordering of the way that things are, of our observation of the way that things actually are. I mean, there is nothing in the concept of what?
So you're saying that whenever we look at DNA, we're projecting that there's information present within DNA, or do you think there's actually information present within DNA? Do you think that is a feature of reality, or do you think that's something we're projecting onto reality?
I think that after the fact, we can come along and observe that things actually happen in a particular pattern. And the way that pattern is laid out, we describe as information.
So you think that cells don't follow specific instructions that are information about how to build a body?
I think that when these patterns manifest, feel free to jump in anytime, Don, if you are bored.
No, you're good. I'm listening. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would say that when these patterns manifest, they do things that are repetitive and predictable. And in that sense, we are justified in describing it as information. I would also say, though, that when, I take something and I drop it and it falls down due to gravity, that is also something that is behaving in a predictable way that we have learned to outline and describe with theories. But nobody would say that somebody's mind is required at every step of the fall of the object to actually, take it from one position and move it to the next position. It's just things doing what they do.
I'm not advocating for that point either. I don't think God interacts at every moment in the outworking of these natural laws. But I don't think that it's been shown that these natural laws are in fact the product of chance as opposed to being God-authored.
Well, you haven't showed that there's a God.
You prove, you infer that down the line. You just leave it open from the beginning. Like, the scientific method operates on the principle that everything can be explained via natural causes. That's correct,
No.
right? No, that's not correct.
What were you going to say, Don?
Well, I was going to say that you seem to be saying that the universe, once it's set in motion, does all of its things based on natural laws, but that somehow God is creating these natural laws.
So, yeah, that's close. That's really close. I'm allowing for the possibility of agent interaction somewhere down the line if said agent.
Yeah, but how does
intervene.
allowing for the possibility of something actually move you to the conclusion that it actually happened? Like the reason I said,
look at the effect and you see something that seems to be wild, and you infer from there, okay, an agent had to be involved. You know, like take the origin of the universe.
That's generally not how science works. I mean, I disagreed
I agree
earlier.
With that, and
I disagreed a minute ago with your character.
That's not how science works. It weeds those options out. I think that the problem that you run into is that when you assume that the natural laws are a product of chance, to the point that
no one has said that. You are projecting that onto, I don't know who. We haven't said that. Your friend, I don't think, has said that. Scientists aren't saying that.
It came up in the conversation. What I was trying to say is that you don't have to assume it explicitly. You can assume it implicitly. I mean, I'll just ask you a question, and you tell me what you think of it.
All right.
If we can account for everything via natural explanations, then God isn't needed. Do you agree with that or no?
Yeah.
Unless God is part of that explanation.
You've assumed natural explanations as a product of chance. That's circular reasoning. You're going to deceive yourself.
No one has said product of chance. Where does this come from? We haven't said that.
Follow me closely.
Right.
Follow me real closely.
No. There's a difference between making an assumption about something and actually requiring a certain level of evidence before accepting something. So, for instance, there are a lot of people out there who think that UFOs have visited the Earth, and I think what. Yeah, I think you'd agree, though, that like scientists generally don't take that seriously by default. But it doesn't mean that they rule out the fact that UFOs could visit the Earth. It just means that would be an extremely extraordinary event that happens outside normal experience. So we're going to need a little bit more evidence than just UFOs would explain my experience. The fact that some wild assertion could hypothetically explain something doesn't mean that you
it's your first choice.
Give up your duty to demonstrate that it's true.
Well, I realize that, but which one would you prefer? A wild, hypothetical, naturalistic assumption, or a supernatural explanation?
You know,
which one would you
that's a false dichotomy. We could say we don't know, and we're going to investigate.
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, we can leave it open then. That's fine. But
we can leave it open.
The origins of the universe, I think you'd have to leave it open. And like for your UFO analogy that you just used, I would say also, in conjunction with what you said, that there's a lot of people out there claiming to see something.
Sure, there are.
And wait, I wouldn't think that they are all seeing hallucinations. I would leave it open to, well, this is rare, extremely rare, and more data is needed. But a lot of people are claiming to having seen something, and they seem to all be describing something somewhat similar.
That is more or less the position that I've got on both UFOs and God. At the present time, I don't see any particular reason to take the UFO cultists seriously. But if somebody were to come in with very solid, detailed, persuasive evidence, some kind of demonstration of the UFO's existence, I would have to be open at that point to believing in UFOs. The same with God. The problem with both God and UFO, the same with God. The problem with UFOs and God right now is that there isn't good information that points at the existence of either one.
Okay, well, let me, like I said, I'm a Christian. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ.
Okay.
And I'll point to one feature in creation that gives me I guess, or buttresses or strengthens my support and that my worldview is indeed true.
Go for it.
And for that, I'm going to point to DNA, human DNA, or any living thing. And I'm going to say,
but we know where DNA comes from, right?
Yes, but I want you to think about the development stages of a human being, from a single cell all the way up to an adult. And one of the traits that
there's no way it could have happened naturally, right?
No. One of the traits that I want to point to is the presence of a complete set of building instructions before the building is actually built. Like the presence of a complete set of DNA instructions in the first cell.
Right.
That, to me, is akin to an architect sitting down and drawing up a building plan.
No.
And then the building is built according to the plan. To me, that is evidence, or you can infer from that, intentionality.
That's not evidence of intentionality. And the problem with what you're talking about,
you can look at the instructions,
problem with the
and
claim
you know how
you're
to read
making,
it, you can see the building before it's actually built.
No, you can't. It's not a blueprint.
You don't think you can?
No, it's not a blueprint.
Not a blueprint.
The problem with the claim that you're making is that in our observation of DNA, intelligence is actually the end result of a very long sequence of transformation and evolution over time, which began originally from what we understand of the evolution of life at this point, began with some much more basic forms. Do I personally know every detail of the DNA of the first cell? No.
Well, then you have to know that in order to say what you just said.
Well,
no.
the parents created the DNA of the cell, right? From their DNA.
No, he's talking about the very first cell.
Came in on the Darwinian model.
The first self-replicator.
Life arose from a single cell organism, right?
No, the first self-replicator was not itself a cell. Cells themselves evolved through a series. Okay, now we're talking, because the first self-replicator. And bear in mind that I'm a layman and am not.
Well, I am too. We're talking about concepts here.
Sure. But I mean, from what I've read, my understanding is, and there are a variety of hypotheses about abiogenesis, which is the generation of life. But there are these things which are basically referred to as autocatalytic cycles, which means that when a certain group of chemicals are present, they lead to chemical reactions which eventually loop around and generate more of the original chemicals, which allows for a self-sustaining replicating chain reaction as long as there is information or as long as there is enough raw materials present.
You said it. You said information, but I'm following.
I meant raw materials.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. And the cell as we actually know it now, which has, boy, I was terrible in biology, so I'm going to screw this up. Sorry, biologists. But the cell as we know it now, which has like a nucleus and an outer layer and stuff like that, was not the first self-replicating process.
Okay.
Okay, but what I was getting at originally is that after all those incredibly complicated steps happened over the process of billions of years, the first intelligent life forms only arose eventually when things had gotten advanced enough that that some sort of intentionality turned out to be advantageous in some way. And the problem is...
And you know this for a fact.
Again, I'm not a biologist.
I'm trying to make sure you're not just telling me an interesting story here.
No, I'm not just telling you an interesting story.
It seems to me that in order to make the claim that these appearances of intentionality in higher creatures only arose later, you would have to know for a fact.
In the history,
we're talking about notochords and nervous systems and muscles and these sorts of things, right?
Yeah. Are you saying, okay, would you agree with me that intelligence in life on Earth didn't pop up until pretty late in the game. Would you agree that early on there was no intelligent physical life on Earth?
Well, no, I wouldn't agree with you because.
Oh, are you going to go for the young Earth creation, Adam and Eve thing?
In the sense, but I'm willing to talk about it.
Okay.
I mean, I think God created life. I think that God put it there.
How long ago?
Well, I mean, to tell you the honest to God truth, I see problems in the radiometric dating. I see assumptions
okay.
to it that I
so about how long ago would you say?
Well, from the source of authority that I have, a little better than 6,000 years.
Okay, that's really, really unsupported. Even a lot of even a lot of Christians who take their religion very seriously cannot take that seriously. Like, we can get into that if you want, but that's in like stark disagreement with pretty much everything that modern cosmologists and biologists and stuff like that think. So
Geology.
we're not just talking about the requirements
astronomy.
of intelligence anymore. We're talking about complete denial of basic understanding we have.
Well, I mean, I have reasons for believing
I'm sure you do.
I have reasons for not believing the alternative methods. And I mean, if you want to talk all day long, we can talk about that. But the reason why I called, and I think it's inherent in these alternative methods, is you're trying to explain what appears to be a miracle using naturalistic terms, and it's giving you these alternative methods.
I don't believe it looks like a miracle.
Well, I mean, and I believe it does. But my point is, the scientific method is a very particular method that seeks out mere naturalistic interpretations or causes.
It is open to whatever evidence is there. It is not a biased thing like you're saying. It's not a conspiracy. It's open to whatever evidence you guys provide. If you guys have evidence for this magical stuff, bring it out. Let's hear it.
Well,
all you've given us is arguments from ignorance. I don't understand X, therefore God did it. That's all I'm hearing.
I mean, your last argument pretty much.
I'm inferring from what I see and saying, okay, a creator.
You're making bad inferences,
in this
though.
Aspect. I think, like in the beginning of the universe, I don't think that being can arise from non-being.
That's an argument from ignorance.
That's your opinion.
Of everything.
That's an argument from ignorance. Are you familiar with the logical fallacy of the argument from ignorance?
I don't get how it's an argument of ignorance when it's the experience that we have in
It's a term called the argument from ignorance, and it means that I'm saying that I don't know a particular thing, therefore I'm going to assert as fact some explanation for it without evidence.
Everything that we observe has a cause. Everything. That's why science works. It's not an argument.
No, that's not true.
It's an argument from our own experience.
Radiometric decay is uncaused. Quantum level events are uncaused, and so your armchair understanding of physics always has a cause, but that's not how the universe works.
So what are you talking about in the quantum world? Stuff that's uncaused. Are you talking about virtual particles?
Yes, and
I mean,
radiometric decay, for example, spontaneous state changes.
Of the person whom I'm talking to, I'm not an expert. Are you an expert?
I'm a PhD in computer science, and I'm pretty scientifically literate.
We're both computer nerds, but we are both laymen.
Quantum stuff.
Right.
Okay, we're both laymen. Well, I mean, I've read up some on the virtual particles.
But this notion of this armchair notion of causality is false that you're assuming. You're trying to unwind and get back to, hey, there's a first cause. It must be Jesus or God or whatever it is.
Well, I mean, on what grounds do you say that it's false, though?
Well, we
have the standard model of quantum mechanics that has been verified 7 ways from Sunday.
Right. Well, and I mean, there's also a problem
which interpretation of quantum mechanics out of the 9 is true that corresponds to reality. That's what you're telling me?
No.
Say it again.
So you know which interpretation of quantum mechanics out of the 9 possible ones actually corresponds to reality. Is that what you're telling me?
Those models, are either have been or have
verified.
Okay, well then they're all better than what you're proposing.
Yeah, the thing is, you seem to have. I mean, I agree with you that it's important to have high standards of evidence when it comes to the reason why there are multiple different interpretations of quantum mechanics is because we don't, scientists understand that we do not have enough information yet to narrow it down among the ones that we have. But there seems to be a bit of a...
I agree with you with that statement,
but there seems to be a bit of a double standard going on, because when it comes to God, it seems like the only thing that you need is, my God explains this thing. So it's magic.
No, that's not how... some people may do that. I'm not saying that some people don't do that.
You made the point...
But what I am saying is I look at creation, and I see that it is warranted to infer a creator.
That's special pleading, though. A minute ago, you were saying that the problem is that that everything that we observe doesn't have a cause. But you're also, has to have a cause. But you're also making up this special category called God, which you assert doesn't have a cause. So not only are you invoking something that we definitely haven't observed by what you just said, but you're also giving yourself the freedom to define it in whatever way you want. And
I don't think so. I think I'm looking at the effect, and I'm drawing some conclusions about what could have preceded that, based on the if all space, time, and matter and energy came into being at the Big Bang, then obviously God isn't made out of matter, or God doesn't.
You can't say obviously God is anything until you have demonstrated that the God exists.
Made out of matter, or you could say that what preceded our universe isn't made out of matter or conforms to our time.
All right, you could say that. That would be a hypothesis.
I'm curious how you get to this creator God, from this creator God to, Jesus died on the cross and we got to kill the Jews and these sorts of things.
Well, no, I don't think that we do have to kill the Jews. I think that my form of Christianity isn't the equivalent of all forms of Christianity, because there is different beliefs, just like there is within any other religion in the world, and there is within the scientific community. There's different theories about the same thing. So I'm not going to try to advocate for somebody else's version of Christianity.
Right.
How do I get back to my God, the Christian God? Is that what you're asking from what I'm saying?
Yeah, you leapt from creator to... I'm going to be saved in the afterlife and all this stuff, right?
Yeah, I have to interject that
on the authority of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I think he finishes off the argument. You're left with okay. At least I'm left with okay. There is a creator.
Yeah, I have to interject at this point that we are halfway through the show at this point.
Okay.
And
I don't want to take up your whole show or anything. So if you need to end the conversation, go ahead. There was a guy on YouTube wanted me to call up and talk to you guys.
Okay.
It's been a pleasant experience.
Well, I'm enjoying this conversation. I know some people get antsy if we take too long on one caller, but I want to say I appreciate your call, and I think it's been interesting.
And you're welcome to call back.
And I appreciate you guys letting me call. I hope you guys have a good day.
You too.
Thanks.
Take care.
Talk to you again sometime, maybe. Bye.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Thank
you. Okay. I'm gonna go to Lucas in Hamilton,
Ontario.
Ontario. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, Lucas.
Hello.
Is that you?
Hey there.
Hello.
Welcome. What do you got?
Hi. Yep. Hi.
Go.
He's got a little delay.
I guess I was just wondering who you guys think Jesus was as a person. Hello?
Yeah, we've got a little lag here, so
Hello?
we're going to have to talk one at a time. But who we think Jesus was as a person.
Okay.
I know a lot of people who are convinced that the mythicist position is correct. I have a lot of respect for David Fitzgerald and Richard Carrier, and I think their work is worth checking out. That said, I don't think that I mean, I think that the existence of Jesus as a person, it tends to be considered mainstream history. But in spite of that, there's almost nothing else you can say about Jesus with any degree of confidence, because all the stuff that's written in the Bible about being born of a virgin and walking on water and doing the loaves and the fishes thing and coming back from the dead, that's all just stories that people have been telling each other for a long time. And there's very little original writing detailing very reliable information about the life and actions of this Jesus guy. So I tend to just shrug and accept the idea that there was probably a real guy that he's based on, according to a lot of historians. But the Bible is probably wildly inaccurate, and it's hard to say anything definite. Don? Any?
Well, we can let him respond.
Yeah.
I would probably agree with you on that. I guess what you hear a lot from like apologists, I guess, and stuff like that is like, why would they use women as the the eyewitness accounts, the testimony? Isn't all the stories and all the different accounts, doesn't that suggest that something was happening there?
No.
No. Our best understanding is that they're derivative works and that they went off in different directions and they're completely inconsistent with each other. And if you want to assert something miraculous happened, you need to have independent evidence, not derivative works and not contradictory evidence. And that's not what we have there.
Right. I would agree with you. I guess I was just wondering you guys' take on it, and yeah.
Okay.
Well,
thanks for calling then.
Yeah, I think we should move on because the delay is a little awkward.
Right.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Just a mention from the call screener that we had a caller who wasn't willing to talk on the air, but she was an anonymous ex-Muslim living in the Middle East who wanted to tell us that we're doing good work and we should keep it up.
Okay,
so,
that's always nice to hear.
Thank you, anonymous ex-Muslim. Stay safe.
Yes, that's a tough row to hoe.
Yeah. So we have Mark in Tucson, Arizona.
Hello.
Hi.
I am an atheist, but I am also a super atheist that happens to believe in super immortality. I don't believe.
What are your powers?
Excuse me?
If you're a super atheist, what are your powers? You got heat vision?
All my power is I believe in super immortality.
Oh, what does that mean?
That just means that you believe that what produces the consciousness that we are made of is the structure and functioning of matter rather than the body. So you can, it's a property of the body, is the structure and functioning of it, and that's one thing that can be duplicated.
Okay.
That you maybe can duplicate the body, but only in specific singular ways.
So are we talking like the Star Trek transporter sort of thing? Is that what we're talking about?
Sort of, but not necessarily. Because, if you're a body person, if you're transported, you're obviously killed when you're transported. Because
not according to some episodes.
Maybe the matter is, but it depends upon how the transportation is made.
Okay.
Anyway,
just to be clear, are you saying that we could do this right now, or are you saying that hypothetically, theoretically, we could do it someday in the future?
No, I'm just saying that the probability that you can exist in the future or in the past or any particular time is a reality.
What?
So when you guys say, well,
Prove
when
it.
you're dead and that's the end of it, that's not a true statement.
Okay, can you demonstrate this? Like, can't...
News to me.
In 2015 and 2016, I've had an extensive discussion with several people about that, with a bunch of different demonstrations. I don't know if you saw that.
No, we never heard of you.
Yeah, well, you know what 2015 is. It's when you talked back on the 15th of, or no, it was the 20.
Oh, you called into the show.
Episode of year 20.
You called into the show.
Yes, I did at that particular time. But
Okay.
unfortunately, my phone just died in the middle of a discussion with you.
Okay.
And then I noticed that another person called up Bard from Australia the next week, saying that he was an atheist, but however he believed that life after death was possible. So
Okay, so a lot of
apparently there's
people
more than
say
one
things.
person.
Yeah, we're still fishing for evidence.
Yeah.
Well, if you've ever studied the body or personality theory of consciousness, there's just all sorts of problems with the body theory and the personality theory.
Okay.
So if I take away your head, do you still exist? Does your personality still exist?
When you die, obviously your body's not producing your consciousness anymore, correct? We agree on
Producing.
that, right?
Well,
Do you agree that if
your body dies and your mind dies and the mental processes in your mind stop working and then consciousness stops, right?
Absolutely, we agree with that. And there's no supernatural souls or anything like that going on.
Right.
We both agree with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And?
Well, the question is under what conditions can you restore the body to a position that'll be producing a consciousness that you experience?
Well, this sounds like science fiction to me.
Yeah, I mean, I personally love science fiction, and as a computer guy, I think it would be super cool if we could reproduce a mind in a computer, and I've read tons of stories about it.
No, I'm not talking about a computer. I'm just talking about what would it take to do to restore the body. I mean, people have died for 20 minutes and they are restored because their breathing is restored and their heart was restored.
I'm skeptical about using the word died in that circumstance, but I mean, I feel like that's a linguistic issue.
If you can be restored to life, then you never died to begin with.
Huh?
Is that what you believe?
Kind of.
I mean, Bard, the Australian guy, he said that imagine the case that you're frozen and all the atoms in your body are spread out through the universe, and then they come back together again. And Matt said, well, if all that happens, you know, you really never died to begin with.
Well,
I mean, I would...
The evidence
like,
that you have to have the same matter. Many people have said, well, most of the matter in your body has been replaced in 10 years.
Right.
So,
I would agree that in a hypothetical sci-fi way, if you manage to reconstruct a perfect duplicate of the brain or the patterns in the brain in some other medium, then the same consciousness would continue on. And also, you know, I can imagine a scenario where the person died and then their brain at the death state was reproduced. Again, all science fiction stuff that we have no way of knowing at this point if it's really possible. But I agree that it's cool to think about,
actually,
and that's it.
There is a lot of proof for that without going into the science fiction of it.
So you have a long list of people that have been rehydrated?
Rehydrated or
reconstituted?
Rejuvenated, whatever you want to, whatever word.
Not necessarily, but just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean that it's you know, super immortality does not guarantee that you will ever exist again. All it does is show that the probability of it happening increases the more we know.
So this is a probabilistic sort of argument.
Yeah. Why are you calling this super immortality? It sounds lamer than regular immortality.
I mean, when the weatherman predicts his weather, he says, well, there's a 50% chance it's rain today or 10% or whatever. And when the quantum mechanic person or the physicist says, well, there's a 10% chance that you're going to find the electron around this atom.
Hey,
in this
listen,
area.
hang on a minute, hang on. Why are you using the term super immortality for this? It sounds a lot less exciting than just regular immortality.
Well, because we have control of it. That's one thing.
We do? What are you talking about?
What do you mean? Well, first of all,
we have control. Wait. We have control of it? Like, are you saying that we can make people immortal right now?
No, I'm saying people are already super immortal.
What?
Well, if you
and
want
again,
to
is this super immortality better than being regular immortal? Wouldn't it be nicer to just continue?
It's much better than being regular immortal.
Why? I would like to just
Because,
maintain.
First of all,
I would just like to be plain old immortal and live forever. I think that would be way better.
Vanilla
than this,
immortal would be just fine. Yeah.
Immortal. I don't think you really want to be immortal because you have to look it up on the internet. Everyone has all sorts of reasons you don't want to be immortal.
Yeah, I've seen The Highlander, but
super immortality doesn't require that at all. Because if you
still don't
think
get what
about
it
the
is.
structure and functioning of the brain and matter, if you duplicate it 50 million years from now, it'll be producing the behavior that it exists now. But if you produce the structure and functioning when you're 10 years old, you will produce that consciousness, not the one you have now.
I would have to say that wouldn't feel to me.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
I would have to say that wouldn't feel to me like being immortal at all. It would feel, I mean, again, hypothetically, it would just feel like, hey, I was 10 years old in 1984, and oh shit, it's 2,574, and I'm still a 10-year-old, and I'm confused in this strange new world that's happening. That doesn't seem like any kind of good immortality. That's why it's super immortality, because there are awful
structures and functionings that'll produce a consciousness that you'll experience. Isn't immortality all about experience and consciousness
that wouldn't be me. I mean, in doing that, if that could even happen, I would have lost all the experiences that I've had for the last 30 years. I'd basically, it would basically be a different person starting from the...
You wouldn't experience it from then on at a different life with a bunch of different experiences. That's the whole point.
Yeah, in computer science, that'd be called a checkpoint.
Singular person going through life, you can experience multiple different things.
But would I remember any of the past things that I'd done?
Yeah, when you were 10 years old, all of them.
But how is this any better from just somebody else living?
It doesn't have to be an exact duplication of you 5 years in the future of you right now.
That doesn't seem like immortality to me. That just seems like living... Okay, we're talking over each other too much. This is getting too much. I'm gonna have to end this.
Okay.
Don.
Thanks for your call.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you very much for taking it. I hope you have a good day and you have a great show.
Okay.
We've got a couple open lines if folks want to call in.
Right. And we always want to encourage more theists to call in because we might give you half the show to talk to us.
Yeah, you could be a star.
Yeah, as you can see, we love conversations with theists. And sometimes I'm not sure what irritates me more. The stream, somebody who has some kind of wildly unscientific point of view like young Earth creationism, or the various atheists who want to get in touch and ramble about their
pet theories,
about the stuff that they came up with when they were high.
Oops. Okay. Let's take
another
call.
We get a lot of email like that too, and I'm just saying. Anyway, who's next? Line 5 is Thomas from Australia.
Welcome, Thomas.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
What's up?
Fantastic. How are you guys doing?
I'm great. Thanks.
Good. I guess I hope I'm not one of those people that's giving you my pet theory, but
Okay.
I have spent quite a bit of time trying to think through and understand how some people come to the conclusions that they do. I'm a fairly confirmed atheist,
Mhm.
and one of the things I've noticed is a seamless transition between what's real and what's imaginary, and how this can be used by theists to justify their belief.
Ah, I see.
okay.
So you're thinking that theists don't have a crisp delineation between the two.
I guess there's two things. One, if you look at the way people prove what they believe, I guess the best way to prove something would be to take a look at all the evidence and see what conclusion that points to. Whereas somebody who's a presuppositionalist would already have the conclusion, and if they find a piece of evidence that confirms it, they simply hang it on the proof that they already have. And
Right.
when you look at a lot of concepts, I mean, something like the expression "everything that's real in the universe," there are things that are real in the universe, but the concept of everything that's real in the universe is still just a concept. And if you start to work with that in a proof, it is still a concept.
Mm-hmm.
And what people don't realize is they've shifted from something that's real to a concept of things that's real seamlessly without actually recognizing that they've done that.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why a lot of times when I give advice to people who are parents and trying to figure out how to raise skeptical kids, I often mention that one of the most important early lessons is not telling them what you think about God, but getting them comfortable with the idea of distinguishing between real things and pretend things, and understanding that some of the stuff that you see on TV, like Barack Obama, seem far away, but they are real in some sense. And some of the other things that you see on TV, like let's say Captain America, are made up and being portrayed. And I think there are a lot of things you might read to your kids that are based in reality or not based in reality, and trying to get them to understand the difference between those things is, I always say, one of the first steps towards raising skeptical and maybe atheistic kids.
Yeah, I think
Absolutely. I think yours might be a bit younger than mine. Mine are teenagers now,
Mine is just about to turn 14, so.
Okay, but the issues become more refined and become more difficult to distinguish as you get older. But even concepts like infinity is often
Right.
used in people's arguments, and infinity is a concept that does not exist in reality. The same with possibility. So a lot of proofs, I mean, Anselm's ontological argument, even the mathematical proof that Chris Langan came up with,
Oh yeah, that guy.
suffered from this, where they slipped into the imaginary and then used that as a proof.
Yeah, and I think there's some other things at play here. One is people tend to be lazy, and they tend to want to just believe what they're told and not go and independently investigate it and not learn the
Absolutely.
things necessary to do that.
Yeah.
There may be wishful thinking involved. There may be too much of a trusting nature. Maybe I think at the root of my skepticism is that I don't want to be duped, and I don't want to be taken advantage of, and so I use my mental facilities to try to avoid that. It's not that I'm paranoid about it. It's just something that I try not to do. So. There's a lot of factors here. It's not, and you're getting into some abstract thinking too that I think is very difficult for some people, and some of these bogus arguments I think take advantage of the fact that people can't make these distinctions between abstract and concrete concepts and these sorts of things.
Yeah, there's some neurological studies also showed that imagining something and actually doing the same thing elicit very similar physical, mental, and emotional reactions. So, eating something that's rotten and thinking about eating something that's rotten use the same parts of the brain and give you the same physical reactions. So again, it can be difficult to distinguish between them. Other studies show that our memory is very fallible, so that you can tell somebody to think about doing something and later on ask them whether they really did it, and they'll tell you honestly that they really did.
Yes.
So again, between those two, the being able to distinguish between the imaginary and the really real can be extraordinarily difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're definitely right. It's hard for kids, and it's still hard for some adults. And also that's compounded by the fact that as you grow up, you also get exposed to more difficult and complicated concepts. So like just when you're entering middle school and you kind of think you've got everything figured out, you start gradually opening up to the idea that like some numbers are irrational, for instance, and taking the square root of -1 kind of conflicts with all the straightforward math that you've got a grip on for all this time. And some of the things that they teach about American history are oversimplified, or, well, you're in Australia, so so different. But I mean, a lot of kids here learn that Columbus was trying to prove that the world was not flat, and that is a blatant lie. And a lot of people get exposed to the dark side of American culture, like slavery and subjugation of the natives, and then a lot of the stuff that we understood about the straightforward stuff about science gradually gives way to this
much more nuanced approach.
Right.
Yeah.
And
the simple answer, that's right.
Yeah, so it actually gets harder as you get older past a certain point.
And so you have to keep an open mind to be able to change your view of what's true.
Right.
Yeah.
And
all right, well, look, that was my main point.
And if I can bring this back to religion, fundamentally what religion is a great big "I told you so," which is...
Or just so story, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the perfect way... not "I told you so," but "because I said so" is what I was trying to say.
Because I said so. Well, both of them probably.
Yeah, I mean, it gets to... it says it in this book, and you should believe whatever it says in this book. And
don't hurt your pretty little head thinking about it.
Right. and don't listen to the
and if
people
you do,
who
God
tell
will get you.
It's not true, because that's bad.
Yeah, but it can be clever as well. I mean, by the time you start using imaginary concepts, so if the universe is infinite, is there a possibility that God exists? You've just moved into the imaginary.
Yeah.
And as long as you get a yes to that question, then that justifies your belief and can actually, consolidate your confidence. And I think that's why you see the two sides not really moving closer together.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, thanks for your insights.
Okay, guys. The other bugbear I had was just the use of random chance or luck.
I hate that.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I think they should be called out like a red card in soccer. You should call it out at debates and say
that's a foul. That's right. I agree. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I really enjoyed talking to you.
You too. See ya.
Bye.
Not sure what the priority is right now, so I'll just go with the person who's been on for a really long time, and that would be David in Los Angeles. Hello.
Hey, guys.
Hey, thanks for waiting.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for taking my call. I know you don't prefer atheist call-in, but I'll try and keep this short because I prefer listening to when you interact with theists. It's always more fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
But first of all, I want to say thanks to you guys. I love your show. I've been watching it for a couple of years now. I've watched pretty much every one that's been posted online.
We're sorry. That's a lot of video.
Sorry at all.
Okay.
Thanks for watching.
Believe me. No, I love listening to trying. My point is, let me get to the point I'm calling about.
Yeah.
I'm a very open, vocal atheist.
Good.
All my friends know it, and I've pissed off a lot of them. And,
Yeah.
Goes with the territory sometimes, right?
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I've always, it's what I'm going to say is bothering you. I guess you don't have to listen. Well, anyway, I don't get to that point. But my question is, I try and do a lot of what's wrong with the logic of God postings on Facebook. I post a lot on Facebook, and I'm pointing out slavery, which of course is Matt's go-to and a lot of people's go-to, mine as well. I'm trying to, just like a theist would try and spread the word, I'm trying to spread the atheist word and have people think with rational logic and I try asking, and my friends, my best friend, for example, said to me, well, you're preaching to the choir, and why don't you just, your quote unquote, your admirable enthusiasm would be best served if shared with others looking to make a difference in their circle. And my response was, well, then I'm the other person in the other circle that somebody else is preaching to, and I'm trying to do the best in my circle. So I put within my circle of friends on Facebook to try and get the ones that are theists to think for themselves. But I guess I piss a lot of people off. So my question is what's a better way? And by the way, Kevin, the call screener, told me about Street Epistemology site, which I've been looking up while I've been on hold, and it looks like a good source.
Okay.
But what would you say is a good way to open up a conversation, so that theists will engage? Because it seems like they don't engage. I ask a logical question, and there's usually no response, or they, of course, change the subject and the typical stuff. But I don't know. I'm a frustrated atheist.
I'm going to be crude for a second. I think that that arguments with theists should be approached the same way that you approach wanting to have sex with somebody, which is first thing on your mind should be consent. Okay?
Right.
So, it can be fun and mutually satisfying for two people to argue with each other. But
not everybody enjoys it.
Right.
Need a safe word. Yeah.
But so if you go around, I mean, you should always turn it around and think to yourself, how would I feel if somebody were approaching me this way? Like when somebody jumps up and accosts you on the street and says, "Hey, accept Jesus right now." You're probably the kind of person who would love a challenge and get interested in engaging with them. But you might also feel like, God, this person is being kind of obnoxious to people who are just.
Most people would be shields up, red alert.
And
right.
You should consider that in your approach to other people, which is why in a lot of the way that I approach people in the day-to-day life is first. It's all a lot of social interaction. It's like gauge their interest and kind of approach the topic gradually and try to figure out along the way, does this seem like the kind of person who would, be open to this kind of conversation? And, going along the same line of consent, when you decide it's time to broach that topic, you should also... ask permission. Be like, hey, I'm an atheist. I don't believe the stuff you're saying. We don't have to talk about that if you don't want to, but are you interested in hearing what I have to say? And every conversation needs to be tailored to the person that you're talking to or the person that you're trying to reach. So when we're doing this show, we know we've got a lot of atheists out there who are tuning in just to listen to us. So by and large, I don't have to worry about, barging into people's homes uninvited. They're seeking out the show of their own accord. And the people who are calling in, they're calling us. They decided to talk to us.
They're self-selecting.
Right.
Yeah. When you're dealing with day-to-day interactions, like in some circumstances, like at your workplace, it might not be appropriate at all. Maybe you should just consider giving that a pass.
Let's focus on something like Facebook, where I have a group of, obviously, my friends that see my posts, and I might ask a question on there, like I don't know. This is probably going to be taken as an obnoxious question, but when somebody, I say, oh, this plane, I saw this article that this plane crashed, and somebody's he survived, and they're saying, thank God that God saved the baby. And I'm like, what about the God that killed all those other people and caused the plane to crash? Which God are you thanking? The one that caused the plane to crash?
No, I think that's perfectly appropriate. I was going to answer your question a little bit different way. I was going to say that a lot of theists are not really prepared to have a debate or intellectual conversation about their religion because because
that's frustrating.
They took it up as a kid, and it's part of the sort of the culture they grew up in, and they never have really thought about it took it out and thought about it as an abstract thing away from it, and there's a lot of emotion associated with it where people, when they have their religious beliefs challenged, they think that you're attacking them because it's so much of a part of their identity and these sorts of things.
Sure.
So those are some of the sort of pitfalls of interjecting those sorts of conversations. I think questions and humor are great approaches, and you need to find a style that's going to work for you. Humor is great because you can make a joke that gets under the radar and gets under the people digging their heels in and makes the point and gets people thinking without even necessarily throwing a bomb at them or anything. Questions are good too because questions sort of demand an answer and they may get somebody thinking. Don't expect any epiphanies because the path to atheism is often a very long one for a lot of folks.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, which is why I continue to post the things I do, because I figured if they haven't blocked me yet, maybe they're looking, and sooner or later something will click.
Right, and I mean, you can always tell them, like, if somebody is acting pissed off at you, like, you post too much atheist stuff. I find that when somebody is annoyed by me, it's more constructive to private message them and not have an argument in front of everybody and say, hey, I'm an atheist. I post a lot of atheist stuff. If that bothers you, there's an unfollow button. But I would welcome any conversation that you have about this topic anytime. And also, if you're going to post on other people's walls, not everything has to be like, sort of a sarcastic comment.
Although we do love those.
we do, but it takes a certain kind of friend not to block you when that happens.
And I admit that I could definitely be on the sarcastic side.
Right.
I mean, lack of logic.
A lot of religion is based on kind of the being sanguine about everybody, this thing is just right and it's true and all reasonable people should agree with me. And sometimes just jumping into what they're saying and saying, hey, I don't think that's true, can be enough to rattle them without making them blow you away.
That's the problem. They're so easily rattled. And like you said, I understand the studies that show that if you ask somebody a question about their God, that the answer comes from the brain that involves their personal beliefs. So you're insulting them. They're immediately taken back and they shut down, change the show, do all the typical things theists do. And it's just obviously you guys live this every day, every week, or every week at least. It's just so frustrating for me, to see the world through the through the eyes of an atheist. The world of the theists is just so frustrating.
Well, you're doing the right thing of being visible, and I think that's what it's going to take. A lot of atheists being visible to really turn the tide, and
And that's exactly what I tell my friends when they say that I'm pissing them off on Facebook. I say, look, it's just the tide's got to turn, like you said, and the only way it's going to happen is by people being out there. And sorry if I piss people off, but if that's what it takes to get them to hopefully see or think.
Well, I mean, you can tell those friends who are already atheists and think you're preaching to the choir the exact same thing you tell the theist friends, which is, I enjoy posting stuff like this and I enjoy the discussion that comes out of it. So if you don't like it, then you should unfollow me because I'm going to keep doing it. But I think it's always a little bit of give and take because you always want to the kind of thing you're trying to accomplish, it seems like you do want to rattle them, but you need to find the right level where you rattle them just enough to invite the conversation, but not enough that they block you.
Right, that's the hard part, sure. All right, well, I'll try humor and I'll look at that website for street epistemology and anything else you can think of I appreciate, but Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Okay, thank you for your call.
Yeah, and
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great
if
rest
you
of
go
the
back
week.
and listen to the
city, I've joined you at Red Hills.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Thanks. If you go back and listen to the first call today, you will find that after 45 minutes of us kind of shouting back and forth at each other and telling each other they're wrong, at the end we still, checked in and we're like, I enjoyed the call, me too, and that was a productive call because that is, somebody who will maybe think about the conversation we had.
And those are the types of calls we want to have on the show, right?
Right.
We debate a bit and have a cordial disagreement, and maybe each side will learn something from the other.
Mm-hmm. Okay, down to 8 minutes. If you haven't called in yet, you're probably not going to get on today. Just letting you know. So we've got Mark from New York.
Hey, Russ, what's up? Hey, Don.
Hi.
Hey.
I talked to you before, Russ, when you were on with Jen. I don't know if you remember me. Okay. It was the endorsements episode, quote unquote, I guess, because I rattled on too much about how you guys are awesome. But
okay, don't do that again. We suck.
I won't. I promise. Okay. So I have a two-pronged question. The first one is kind of a statement that the call screener actually has up on your screen, I believe. I don't understand. I get in arguments a lot with people. Well, I try not to argue anymore. I just let them. If they disagree, I just whatever. But if I hear from a lot of people that like Christians especially, like, were persecuted, that throughout history, like, everyone always tries to shut us down because we have, like, the truth. And
yeah,
to me, it's hilarious because throughout history, like, it's been proven to be shown that, like, atheists and nuns are the ones that are, like, murdered and, shut down and constantly, like,
burned at the stake or whatever,
up,
right?
because they don't believe in what the other people believe in. And whatever king or ruler at the time dictates to be, the rule of the land, if that's what gets followed. And people are like, well, a lot of people believe it, so how, it's got to be true. And to me, it's like, yeah, because everyone else gets killed, so of course a lot of people believe it. And I think it takes a time like now where people have to, our morals have kind of evolved with us, and we really can't get our heads cut off in the middle of the street for saying that, we don't believe in their fairy tales.
Not in the U.S., but in a lot of countries that's still true, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Of course. I don't know. I agree with the last caller. It's just frustrating for that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, I would be careful about oversimplifying and saying it's always atheists and unbelievers who are persecuted, because
No, that's why I was gonna. That's what I was gonna say, Russ. Is there any books or reading that you can about the facts of it that you can actually post on the blog that I can try and look up or find online?
I mean,
because I don't like spouting stuff that I just don't know much about.
I don't know that there's any one book that you can read about about religious persecution. I mean, it tends to happen a lot in oppressive societies that also have one religion strongly enforced. So certainly Christians can persecute non-Christians. You have the Crusades. Obviously, it happens a lot that Muslims in strongly Muslim countries persecute infidels, and in many cases violently. In the modern world. The Jews have come up against their fair. Like, Jews seem to be a perpetual minority in a lot of places, and there's any number of books that you can read about anti-Semitism or the history of anti-Semitism, which is
quite long history.
Yes, very, very elaborate. And then on the other hand, whenever the topic of modern Israel comes up, I have to walk around it very, very carefully, because there are points about how rough the Israelites have it, and there are points about what a right-wing government they have that often winds up oppressing non-Jews.
Yeah, Netanyahu's not that great of a guy.
There's a pretty good website. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Don.
This is a far-reaching topic, is what I'm saying. It's hard to, you're asking this huge question about sociology.
Right. But I mean, isn't the anti-Semitism like rooted from the same thing as the nuns? Like their belief system was going against at the time the growing belief system in like the new founded Christianity or Catholicism stuff.
But perhaps even worse, and that it was similar but a threat, right? It's like a sister religion, or Christianity budded off from Judaism, and so in a way it was a bigger threat in that they had to distinguish themselves from Judaism.
Yeah, well, Christ was supposed to be king of the Jews, and here are all these jerk-faced Jews going around not accepting Christ. And it's like, well, if they're not saved, how can anybody be saved? Oh no, my eternal soul is in danger.
Well, I mean, if it exists, it shouldn't be in danger in the first place, because the person making the rules has the power to change those. But
so I mean,
that's stupid to me.
I don't personally have much to recommend, but you got to start somewhere. So if I were you, I think anti-Semitism is as good a topic as any, and I think if you just search on Amazon for the best rated books that cover that topic, that might be a good place to start. And and that could get you thinking in a lot of different directions about how this works in general with the majority group persecuting the minority group in a lot of places.
And I would add, there's a website called religioustolerance.org that's pretty good about chronicling some of the religious intolerance this way or that way against Christians and by Christians and these sorts of things in different groups. They have some pretty good chronologies there.
Yeah, all right. I'll definitely get started on that. I mean, I won't take up too much more time, but the main reason that I brought that up is because it just like dumbfounds me how people can just forget about history and replace it with mythology and automatically think that nobody's going to see.
Right. Well, there are a lot of different things to unpack, because on the one hand, we've got arguments about the validity of the basic concept of God. And on the other hand, we have the sociological issue of what happens when you cross the prevailing dogma.
Right, but I mean, like, don't they see that, like, when you repackage something as your own theory, that it automatically, when it strays from the original theory, or hypothesis in this case, doesn't it turn into like a completely, totally different thing? And people can't, I mean, that's why there's so many religions. But for instance, if you have a novel that's based, quote unquote, on a true story, and then a director gets a hold of that right and makes a movie based on the true story.
I love all these literary analogies. They're awesome. Yeah.
I really like Inherit the Wind.
The Amityville Horror, is that considered, the 2008 remake, is that considered like an actual true story?
Right.
Let me let you in a little secret. The reason it changes so much is there's no objective basis for it to begin with.
I was going to mention one of my all-time favorite movies is Inherit the Wind from the 1960s, which is based on a play, which in turn is loosely based on the historical event of the Scopes trial in Tennessee over evolution. But that movie in itself took a ton of liberties with the actual facts of the case. So, but it still manages to be a cool story that is about important themes anyway.
I mean, there's cool stories, but I mean, like wouldn't Christianity's like countless retold versions of the Bible just be the bad sequel to own of the Torah?
Yeah, right. The New Testament is fanfic of the Old Testament.
Right, exactly. And I know there's not much time left. I had the second prong I wanted to ask you real quick. This is actually a question. Russell and Don. Okay, so I talked to you last time about how I'm trying to get over being angry at theists when I talk to them, like thinking they're stupid and stuff. And I have, for the most part, gotten over that. Now, another problem that I have is like irrational fear. Mm-hmm. Like I have like a lot of irrational fears of things for no reason. Like I don't believe in hell, obviously. I don't think any of that crap exists. Like I don't believe in vampires or ghosts or anything. But I guess because I was brought up and indoctrinated, like a lot of it's stuck in my subconscious or psyche. So if I let's say, look at the closet in the middle of the night, I'm just like oh crap, like there's something watching me, and I get like an uneasy feeling, even though I know for a fact that I don't know for a fact because I can't prove it, but I know that there's nothing in there, with the intent to harm me. But how do I get over that?
I don't know if there's a pill you can take or whatever, but
Talk to a therapist.
I find that that talking about it is helpful because it allows you to intellectualize it as opposed to sort of be driven by the fears. So that would be one thing to do.
Don, do you think it's just like my irrational imagination, like the whole "is there something in the bushes" evolutionary thing?
Oh, sure. I think there may be even an evolutionary basis for these sorts of things of being
Like it's
a little
better
bit
to be
more
afraid
timid
than
is
caution.
necessary.
Right.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, I'm not really kidding about talking to a therapist. Like Don said, it can be helpful to talk to somebody about stuff. And if you have a person in your life, like, a spouse or a parent or a sibling who is willing to have those chats with you and just, talk through the specifics. I mean, we just have a 10-minute call with you, so we can't really work through all this stuff. But it's not even necessarily that you need advice, but you need to get those things out of your head and out into the open with somebody who will listen and be sympathetic and, root for you.
Right.
And that's actually
Yeah, I guess.
a good thing to do with a therapist is to have a particular problem that you want to work on and you make some progress on it. At some point you decide, well, I've made enough progress and I move on. It may just be a few sessions. That might be something to work on, and you can.
Right. I mean, because it sounds stupid to me because I've had the conversation with myself, and it's like, that that's not what's going on. That that's not real.
Yeah.
Like what and why are you still allowing your heart rate to fasten and then your imagination? I mean, I'm a comic book artist, so of course, like my mind like goes crazy places, but it's not my intent to be like I don't watch I watch a lot of horror movies too, but it's like I'm not gonna watch like The Grudge, and then next time sheets move, not think it's my cat and think there's like an undead girl crawling up under there.
Right.
It's like I don't naturally go to that place, but then when it does, it's just like annoying to me.
Some of us are just cursed with overactive imaginations, I'm afraid.
Yep, true.
All right.
True.
Well, I'm sorry that's all we have for you on that. So
Yep.
I don't know that we have anything more to say on it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, don't be sorry. I mean, any advice is good advice, right? Well, that's not necessarily true either. I can take that back. But
From us, it's good advice.
Yes. Good luck to you.
all right, thanks, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Take care.
And that's our show. I've been asked, and sorry to the few people still left on the line who are not going to get a chance. Try again next week. Somebody asked me to plug the Reason Rally again, so I will. If you want to go and hang out with probably more atheists assembled in one place than you will see at many other points in your life. It is happening in Washington, D.C., beginning on June 6th. I'll be there. I'm not aware that anyone else... I know one of our board members, Phil, is going to be there too. So it's going to be a great event, I heard. I missed the one in 2012, so... consider getting tickets, plane tickets. I don't think you require any actual admission. So Google Reason Rally and you will find more details about where. And also we're going to Threadgills. So
Very soon.
Yep.
Okay.
See you next week.
Okay.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks. I had fun today.
Me too.
I feel like we didn't get a whole lot of traction with that first caller. And
Hi, this is Russell Glasser, host of The Atheist Experience. You know, the Atheist Experience is made possible by volunteers and the generous support of viewers like you. If the promotion of positive atheist culture and separation of church and state are values that you hold, please consider contributing by becoming an ACA member or visiting our product page at evolvefish.com under the Partner tab. Thank you.
Testing. 1, 2, 3, testing.
Oh, you got it? Ken ran out of here too quickly.